Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Susan Coffey. We met through Facebook, and I'm so happy about that. Yes, and I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Hello. As Carolyn said, my name is Susan Coffey. I am coming to you from Colorado. I think we're going to talk a little bit about my background as a death midwife and a little bit about why I got into it, what it's about. But I'll let Carolyn lead with whatever questions may come up.
Oh, thank you so much for the introduction. And my first question is, what inspires you?
Um, so my original career was in public safety, driving an ambulance. And so you encounter death every day. And I knew that there had to be a better way to work with people. When my daughter came along, I knew that if anything happened to her, I wasn't going to turn her over to a funeral home. I was going to take her home and take care of her myself, not knowing that, at least in the United States, it's perfectly legal. Then I happened upon, I believe it was on public broadcasting, was a feature called Family Undertaking, and they discussed funerals. So in the United States, it's been less than 100 years. 100 years ago, people brought home their dead and they would bathe them and prepare them for burial. That's why you hear words like funeral parlor and the living room. That was, especially more affluent houses, those are the two rooms that they had. And during the mourning period, family, friends would come and pay the respects, but also have some time with the deceased. So we come forward 100 years, and part of the process is that people don't really heal from a death. We're given 3 days of bereavement leave, and then boom, you're supposed to be all better, and it doesn't work that way. So I took a death midwife class about 8 years ago to learn the legalities and to learn a proper procedure for preparing a body for burial and ways to work with families and getting everybody. Nobody wants to talk about it before it happens, but if you prepare ahead of time, you're better prepared if you choose to go a funeral home route, because otherwise you're in grief, and the funeral home is a business, and most of them are ethical and they're good and they'll work with you, but you're so overwhelmed. You don't know the questions to ask. You don't know what you want. You don't know what the deceased wants or wanted. So that's kind of how I got into all of this. And it sounds weird, but I love death care. So that's just, do you have any particular questions or?
Yeah, there was something that came into my mind because my first question was, what inspires you? And of course, you got inspired to do this work, or yeah, to do this, what you are doing. And this is very amazing because we can talk about someone that is dead now, and the spirit, if the spirit is gone or not. What do you think about it? Is a dead person in spirit?
My personal beliefs are that, and part of it's a hope that this isn't the only thing. Because if this is the only life, it seems to me, it doesn't seem worthwhile. Um, I don't subscribe to the idea that I have to be good in this life to be rewarded in the next life. I just think that next side is part of the journey. It's another chapter. Um, so, and that's again part of the reason for allowing and working with people to do home funerals so that they can talk to their deceased. I'm not fully convinced that the soul, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, leaves immediately upon death. I kind of think that they hang out for a little bit. And even if they don't, it doesn't really matter. It makes people feel better that they have that. I had a really good friend who, she always claimed to be polyatheist. So she didn't believe in God. She didn't believe in the afterlife in any religion. But we still had a funeral for her, and I still talk to her.
Yeah. So that means it depends on the belief of the people who are left.
Right. Since we don't have empirical evidence that there is another life after this one. But I think sometimes that belief system that people have, it's comforting to them to think that in the community that I live, the Hispanic community at Halloween, my background is Irish, and they have a similar belief that around Samhain or Halloween, during that time, that our deceased loved ones come back and they visit with us. And that it's a big party in the Southwest United States with Hispanic culture. They construct an ofrenda, and it has pictures of the deceased. It has their favorite foods and their beverages. And it's a way to remember them. And it's incredible to see how an ofrenda, we've had community ones or personal ones, people seem to enjoy that. They, of course, they miss their loved ones, but it's on par with going to see somebody you haven't seen physically in a long time, and then you come home, you miss them, but you have a way to still be with them.
Yes. Wow, this is amazing what you said about your Irish roots, if I can say this. And also, I remember I learned this in school about Halloween. It came from Ireland, and
Mhm.
it means All Hallows Eve. It is the evening before the 1st of November, and we celebrate in Germany, for example. The 1st of November is when we go to the cemeteries and put a light on. I don't know how you call it in your country or in the rest of the world, but it is All Hallows Day, where you think about your loved ones that passed away. Yes.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. I know I visited Hawaii several years ago, and in Hawaii, they leave fruit. So the fruits that grow in Hawaii, and you see the cemeteries, and each of the graves has a bowl of fruit. I think some cultures have a tendency to remember their dead more often, and in more ritualistic fashion. Others, they're dead, they're gone, and moving on. I One of the things we do with I host a death cafe once a month, and we have one of our death cafes where everybody brings a family funeral food, whatever that may be. In my family, it was always ham and sweet potatoes. Despise both of them, not my favorite foods, but I still bring them. And then we bring a story or a memento of our loved one and talk about them. And it's one of the more popular death cafes, and I'm asked every year to host that because people like to talk about and share those stories, and keep that connection with whomever it is that has passed.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I was a part or a participant of a grieving circle 1 week ago, and I never did this before. And what would you say is the difference between a grieving circle and a death cafe?
So Death Cafe is essentially a safe place for people to come and talk about death, any aspect of death, whether it is, should we be buried, should we be cremated? Here in the States, we've got a couple other options. We have a thing called water cremation, which is, a lot of people went to cremation 20, 30 years ago because they thought it was more environmentally sound than burying. Not necessarily 100% accurate. We have 2 states right now, and I think we're coming on board with 2 more states that allow human composting, essentially taking the human body, and it turns into enough compost to fill the bed of a pickup truck. There are certain rules. They don't want you, it's compost, but they don't want you planting food in it, but nobody's regulating what you plant. So in the United States, we have a lot of options, but people don't know their options. The part, we've had some workshops with people putting their wishes in writing ahead of time. One of the things I like to use is a booklet called 5 Wishes. And it's a document that lets you speak for yourself when you can't speak. It doesn't mean you're terminal. It could be that you were in a traffic accident and are in a coma. But it outlines the kind of care that you want, but also talking about, so when you die, what do you want? Do you want a funeral? Do you want to be buried at sea? What to do with your assets? Just a lot of those things. And putting your wishes in writing makes it so much easier for your family. Otherwise, families squabble. They don't know what to do. I don't know. Did she want to be buried? Did she want to be cremated? If it was a traumatic injury, did he want any advanced care? Did he want to just die naturally? And it can be a tough conversation, but those that have attended some of the 5 Wishes workshops always say it's one of those things they've checked off their list and now they don't have to worry about it.
I love that. That gives clarity. Yeah. Okay, my next question is, who inspires you?
Who inspires me?
Yeah.
That's such a great question. I would say one person that always inspires me is the woman who taught my death midwife class. I did not know her at the time. I simply reached out to her. I knew at the time I couldn't afford the tuition and the airfare and the hotel for the class. And because she was only teaching in Illinois at the time. So the answer is always no, unless you ask. And she agreed. She came out to do the class. And I thought, okay, great. Met this wonderful woman. The class is great. And that would be the end of it. So here we are 8 years later. I've attended other trainings with her. I've gotten to be part of the death midwife training classes. And where she is, she's active in the spiritual community. She was the first pagan to speak at what is a conference? It's a worldwide religious conference. And most of the people that attend, there's Buddhists, there's Muslims, there's Jews, there's Christians, but never had been pagans before. And now there's this opening that they see your religion, my religion, probably very similar. We do a lot of ritual together. And in fact, I will see her again at the end of February for a women's spiritual retreat. Most women that attend are pagan, but not everybody. But it's a great community. So I feel really honored that I get to spend time with her. She asks me questions. I think she's a wise person. I think I'm just this person going along, but she will consult with me on things. And I really appreciate that.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
how
you.
do you inspire other people?
Ooh. Probably, to answer this, I'm thinking of some of the people that I work with. I work with a group of younger people, and I work in a hospital. That's what's paying my bills. And the security staff, most of them are younger. And we started with just a small group and greeting each other with a hug. I didn't grow up in that fashion. And especially during COVID when everybody was so germ phobic, but we still greeting each other with hugs. And it's gotten to be very much a ritual. And that once a month we have breakfast together. And you would think with a younger group that everybody's face would be in the phone. And they have their phones up. They want to share photos they've taken and maybe haven't posted on social media or joke. There's a lot of conversation. And I'm kind of the auntie. I was called the crazy auntie, that they can come to me and ask and talk about their relationships, their raising children, work challenges. And I don't always have the answers. I'm happy to listen, but sometimes I do. I've got some life experience that they don't. And sometimes I've had a time or two shaking my head in that parental auntie sort of way that what they were doing, they weren't making good choices.
Mhm.
And I feel that I can communicate that to them. So I hope that that's inspirational to them, that having a good life is not one of wealth or accumulation. It's taking care of each other. It's having fun. And fun can be laying on the couch binge watching sometimes, or going on an adventure, going on a cruise, or going on a trip. Um, but the one thing I always tell them, that when people tell you you can't, that's when you got to do it.
Oh, yes.
And especially with women, we're still seeing, well, you're a girl, you can't do that. And
Mhm.
why? It's not illegal, it's not immoral, it's not unethical. So tell me why I can't do that. So like I hope those are some things that inspire them as they're going forward in their world.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was really inspiring now for me. Thank you for sharing. Please re-listen to this episode. There were nuggets in it already, but I have two more questions. One is, what are your gifts and talents?
Um, the first thing that always comes up is I am good in a crisis. So that may be too kind of why death care is something that's drawn me in that I can keep a level head in a very emotional time. It could be because my first career, there was a lot of training. I was supposed to be the help, so I can't panic when I get on scene, say a traffic accident with 4 or 5 vehicles. Um, I think I'm fairly level-headed. Uh, Not that I haven't made. We've all had those choices where like that was not a good idea. Um, but I think too, just an inner strength that was bestowed, I would say, through generations. I've always been around really strong women in my family. One of my grandmothers in particular, that my mother would always say, you're a girl, act like a girl. My grandmother says, just let her do. And at the time, the term was tomboy, but I liked what I liked. And both my grandparents, if you wanted to learn to sew, didn't matter if you were a boy or girl, you learned to sew. I did not want to learn to sew. I didn't learn to crochet or any of those things that I grew up with kind of girly. Um, but I think those are, and a resilience. That's another thing I think is one of my strengths, that some of those times that you get kind of knocked on your butt by life, and I'll sit there for a minute, but I'm like, I have things to do, and I'm going to persevere and get on with it. And I have a firm philosophy that even though we think about the past and we plan for the future, now is the part to really focus on. And when we focus on the now, everything else, can't do anything about the past, and the future takes care of itself. So I'd say those are probably my better attributes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I understand this so much. We live in the now. This is very important that you pointed that out. Thank you for sharing. And my last question is, when people reach out to you now after listening to the podcast using the code INSPIRED, and we know that they are coming through that podcast, do you have a special offer for the Inspired podcast community?
Um, Anybody who would reach out to me in particular with the death care, I would be happy to um, give them a 30-minute consultation, uh, complimentary. If they have questions, put them in the right direction. I would certainly do that for anybody in the Inspire community.
Oh, thank you so much. That helps. Please reach out to Susan Coffey. Beautiful name. I'm
Thank you.
drinking coffee right now. I have to, but how many times did you hear this?
And it's
Yeah.
funny, I don't like coffee
Mm.
generally. I drink it very, very rarely, and it's got to have a lot of cream and a lot of sugar
Oh, yes.
before I drink it. I love the smell of a good coffee. But you can find the my email
Mhm.
is, it's a very long email. It's goingmywaydeathcare@gmail.com.
Going
And
my
I
way.
chose that because I believe that people do get to have choice in what they want done after they die. They have choice while they're living. I do a lot of work with hospice patients, and so that's another choice, and letting them know, supporting them through their choices.
Oh, yes, I love that. Yes, thank you so much. This was completely new to me, of course.
Me
Let's
too. This
just
is an
work.
experience.
Thank you. Yeah, and please reach out to Susan.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
if you have any questions, don't hesitate.
thank you. And
Anything. Thank you very much. We'll see you another day.
yeah, see you at another day. Wow.
Be safe.